Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. I'm here, Andy Caruza with Nacho, the best place to buy SaaS. And a lot of that reason is because we have a lot of the best software products on the planet. And today I have Chad with OrangeDox, who's going to go over some of the biggest document management trends in 2023. And he's also going to explain and introduce to us his product and explain what they're doing over there and why his product in particular is unique. And in that regard, I'd love, Chad, if you can give us an introduction to your product and a quick 1-minute elevator pitch.
Yeah, for sure. OrangeDox is a secure document sharing platform. We do also virtual data rooms, specifically integrated with Google Workspace.
Great. So how'd you get to where you're at in your career? Where did all this start? What inspired you to start a document management company? Here somewhere, and you lost the
Yeah, I mean, I think I see call it more like secure document sharing in the end. But I think where this all came from, it's an interesting story. We started with a Snapchat for business documents. Me and a co-founder in 2014, and then we shopped that around, and we told people, hey, we can have your documents disappear after a period of time. And then people are like, oh, that's interesting. And then we're like, well, we can also tell you who looked at them and for how long. And that is exactly where people had a lot more interest. So we decided to pursue that. We became a document tracking platform. And then we moved from there. After a number of years of it not working, I decided, essentially, the co-founder left, and I decided to move it into secure document protection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of times you could find that a feature maybe in consumer applications can also apply to business applications as well. I know that Who Viewed Your Photo feature and Snapchat and other social media sites is extremely popular.
For sure.
Nice. So yeah, that's interesting too, because a lot of times it's not like your first iteration of the product. It's kind of it's a marathon that you're running, right? So you kind of pick up some features and some things that work along the way to get to the final product to where you're at today. So yeah, we'd love to hear more about all the features and everything that your product carries today that people should know about.
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones, I say we started with document tracking. So we do a lot of really in-depth document tracking when you share documents with your prospective clients and customers. And then, we move right into the document security. And that was the biggest one for us. So security being, if I was sharing, a document with, your team, I would be able to ensure that only they saw the document and they couldn't forward it to anybody else. And then I could also skew when they viewed it as well. And that works great when you're doing things like fundraising. So you're doing your due diligence. You want to share like really important financials and key things about your company that are really confidential. You do not want them being shared. You use a data room, which is what we provide, and we have the secure document technology on top of that to ensure that you're not forwarding someone else.
Great. And so why should companies care about this besides obvious reasons that you don't want your glorified pitch deck to get out there to the world and everybody to copy your ideas? Is there any use cases or stories that you've heard of where people didn't do it right and they probably could have used a platform like yours to mitigate that problem in advance?
Yeah, I mean, specific stories, not quite, but definitely, when it comes to a couple different use cases that we see quite a bit. One obviously is what I described there, which is being a virtual data room for fundraising is a big one. Due diligence, and that can be fundraising not only for your startup, but for also different investing rounds within a particular venture capital company or private equity company. And obviously, the key things being there, that one being that you don't want those key financials being shared with everyone because they are very, very confidential. But also is in regards to training material. So people who are sharing educational material out, they sell it. They do not want that to be proliferated because otherwise they lose revenue, and that's another big one we see as well.
Great. So do you guys have a lot of clients in the creator economy space too, or do you find like a lot of venture capitalists and maybe sales teams probably use your product?
We're a little bit more on the business side than sort of the venture capitalist, private equity, finance side. We did pursue quite aggressively initially for the creator side, and it's something that creators do look for things for free rather than paying.
They want money from you, though.
Exactly. And so, we see a little bit more now from businesses who actually have training material that they want not only to be disseminated, but securely, and also to track that people have actually looked at it and actually reviewed it. And that's one of the things we're now seeing as well.
That's great. What other tips do you have for people to, to know when and how to secure their documents? What would be, a key piece of information that you might want to keep out of other people's hands? You mentioned, a pitch deck, financials. Do you see any other trends there where it might be kind of a gray area where people don't know if it's secure data, if it's data that they should keep secure or not?
Yeah, I mean, I would say anytime you're sharing externally outside your company, you should really do open data tool tests.
Yep.
And that's one of the key things, to do. Specifically, obviously, like market material, sales material aren't exactly like anything you have to care about, when it comes to secure sharing. Definitely financials. Those are a really big one. Anything to do with like, patent information, proprietary information that is very specific to your company that is competitive. We're now seeing a lot more people realizing, hey, I shouldn't just send this Excel spreadsheet that describes exactly how my product works, or how my particular patent is set up. So doing things like that to ensure that people don't share that information is getting pretty key.
Great. And have you guys gotten any patents for any of the work that you do, or do you have experience in that realm?
No.
I had to learn it the hard way, but it's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like I had a cousin of mine who does a lot of. He actually works for the University of Southern Carolina in the entrepreneur program, and he was all about patents and moving from the tech world into old school tech world into today. And I think it is quite difficult to secure patents, especially when we have the technology today. It's a lot of it's shared. I mean, we use a lot of open source technology, so it's really difficult to patent something that's specific to our process. But,
yeah, especially for software, it's always difficult. I've in the past had like a hardware IoT product. It was a lot easier to patent stuff around that.
Yeah,
software is always tough.
definitely.
On the flip side of that too, I know a lot of founders are always worried about their idea getting out there. What are your thoughts on, say, a founder that's worried about, not sharing his idea with people and being in that, stereotypical stealth mode, if you will? Is there some upsides and downsides to that? I hear it all the time, and I'm like, just get out there and share it.
I was funny because like I started getting into this whole startup realm back in 2012, and we're in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and there wasn't a lot of people I knew here, so I just started going to meetups and talking to people. And I always thought the people who are like, you gotta, my startup is on stealth, I don't want to talk about it. You're like, great, well, you're not going anywhere. I mean, if you're not gonna be able to talk about your startup, I mean, no one's really gonna pay attention to you. So I mean, yeah. It's interesting because I take the idea that anybody who asks me what we're doing, I will tell them everything that we're doing, because I really believe that we also have an edge on our competition, specifically our integration with Google. And I think I have no problem telling people where we're at and what we're doing, because I don't see that as being a negative. But I think the people who are really scared about their startup and they're being in stealth mode and they're worried about that is that they probably don't bring a lot to the table. They're probably not bringing a lot of things that are
tangible.
Are tangible, and also for like competitive wise, how do you both be competitive because they So the idea is the only thing they're bringing. So that's why they're not going to really describe it to you.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's a confidence thing, right? And it kind of exudes itself in the way they act around that particular subject. But I used to be that way too when I was a first-time entrepreneur, like 18, 19. You just want to protect your idea against the world. And now it's usually a sure sign when people think the idea is like the greatest thing. It's really about execution. So, anybody can have an idea, but just putting pen to paper and actually bringing the thing to life and actually knowing how to build the company brick by brick is a totally different thing.
For sure.
Nice. What other kind of experiences and lessons have you learned as an entrepreneur over the years?
A lot.
You go down the rabbit hole here.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say like in general, there's a couple of sort of things that stand out with OrangeDox specifically. I had some other startups that didn't go anywhere back in the day, but the biggest one was learning from a product where we were initially just way too agnostic. We're just like, we do document tracking for anybody. And the problem was we weren't specialized in any niche of a company, and we were told many times that you need to niche it, and we're like, no, we don't need to do that. And guess what? It didn't really go anywhere. And that was one of the biggest things that was really difficult, is to listen to that feedback from people. And then also the pivoting. So people talk about pivoting, but essentially it's just changing that idea and making it so you're not like, we'll only do this.
Yeah.
And doing that document tracking, what happened with that is that I started with a co-founder. He left the company after a couple of years, And we weren't just going where we wanted to go. People weren't willing to pay for the product. They were like, it's a nice to have. And you don't want to hear that when you have a product, is that it's nice to have. You want to hear that I need it. And so I actually put the product down for 2 years. Didn't do anything with it. Just sat there. And I thought, oh, that's it. The product's just going to die. I'll just let the existing customers, And it didn't. And so I was like, okay, well, there's something there. And that's why I started looking into what people were caring about. And what they cared about was the security. And that's where that pivot came. And that's really meant the big change to the company in the sense of, our revenue's grown dramatically since then. We are growing quite aggressively now. And that's been great because we're moving into a space where not only do we find, hey, by listening to our customers that you care about document security, but you also care that we exist with your existing tools, like Google Workspace.
Integrations are huge.
And it's massive, And it's not just even integration. It's like we exist within that realm, that scope.
They don't want to change their workflow. So if you could fit right nicely into it, it's a win-win.
Exactly. And we have those integrations with like Gmail and Google Drive. You don't have to leave them. You just do everything in there. And I think if you look at existing tools, existing virtual data room tools tend to be fairly legacy. It's like you have to upload files to them. You got to manage everything there. And it's a lot of duplication of work. And a lot of things get sort of missed. Oops, I forgot to update that file, but within the data room. Also, they do things like charge by megabyte, which I'm like, I didn't realize it. People are still doing that since the 1990s. So I know it's insane. And so, we provide a solution that is
it's like charging for text still these days.
I saw that.
You get 100 texts a month. Yeah. Okay. No.
I mean, you're talking thousands of dollars. Where we're more in the like our highest tier plan for business is $65 a month. And I think this is where now especially companies that are looking to save money are like, hey, let's just choose somebody who we integrate with. Well, it's easy to use and it's inexpensive. And that's exactly where we fit.
That's great. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of times, everybody thinks their product is for everybody, and they want to, go after the biggest market possible. But a lot of times, it's best to go land and expand with a niche audience, and then you can iterate and build upon that. And it's interesting with pivoting too. A lot of times, people think pivoting is a bad term. But pivot doesn't have to necessarily be a 180 on a product. It could just be, you could be one small thing away from being successful. It could be a feature that your customers really wanted. It could be like a security feature. It could be viewing people, the integrations, right? Not disrupting their workflow that makes people want to adopt your product. It could be better positioning, but a lot of people kind of give up before they get to that point and, play with those different variables to get that right product market fit before they find success.
Totally, exactly. And that pivot has been viewed as a dirty word because it's like, well, you failed, but you didn't fail. In my mind, I think it's change. I mean,
find a better way.
You got to keep on evolving your product. If you're not evolving your product, then essentially you are going to be the old dinosaur in the room that's going to be going.
And that's not why we build these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Go work in a corporate company and get a cushy paycheck, if you want. Great. So what's next for document sharing and the entire industry? Do you see AI playing a role into that or any other trends?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure exactly where I would sit with what we do. Because we're really that sort of like we're viewed as a strict tool between sharing from human to human. I think things where AI could come into it would be helping to do a lot of document summaries, understanding what is within particular data room, say for instance. But I think in the end, where the industry is going is that the integrations. Like say there's these old school legacy companies that have worked on, you upload it to us, we'll store it securely for you. Well, Google Drive stores it securely. I mean, all that is now is commonplace. You expect that. You expect that your documents are stored securely. You're okay with them being on the cloud. And now it's a question of like, how do I disseminate them securely? And in making sure that, we're using a tool that integrates with where we're at. And that's where things are going to go. I mean, if you're not integrated tightly with a service provider like Google Drive or Dropbox or Box, then you're probably going to be left in the dust.
Definitely. And so your product's primarily catered towards more SMBs. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely more SMBs. We're seeing a little bit more enterprise sales now. I think a lot more interest from larger companies because we don't have a Teams plan that allows them to do that. But definitely more on the SMB side at the moment.
That's great. Any other tips, I guess, for other SaaS founders out there that might be watching today for how to bring a product to market and ensure that you have that product market fit that every company desires?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of tips, but maybe I'll summarize down a couple of key ones. Number one is to determine what kind of company you want to be. One of the things that we started was, and one of the things that killed the original company, what I had to put it down for a while was, do we go for funding or do we not? And I spent about a year of my time trying to find funding, and we didn't close around. The company just crumbled after it because it wasn't because we couldn't find the funding. It's just because we didn't have the right market fit. We were at the right time for doing it. Also, what primarily came of that was that it's not the type of personality I am. I don't want to jump into a company, raise millions of dollars, and try to make this thing go crazy. Where I sort of fit better, and I realized this later, was that I just actually want to build a company from the ground and bootstrap it, and that's what I've done, and it's now profitable, and it's been working great. So you got to choose, I think, as a founder, what do you want? What do you want your lifestyle to be like too? I have friends who've done that, they've exited. I have friends who did it and did not exit and exploded. I have friends who bootstrapped companies and exited and not. So it's all over the whole spectrum, but it depends on your personality, and you got to really understand that before you go in. It's probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people think you have to raise money, and they think even worse, they think raising money is success.
Yeah.
It's a liability, you got to return that money.
It's the money train. Once you're on it, you stay on it, because that's the only way you're gonna, your investors are gonna be able to get off. And I think people don't fully realize, we raised some money and then we're done. No. It's a nonstop process. And I think you also have a lot more control in a bootstrap company, but it's also means that it's a lot more, you struggle a lot more. You don't grow as fast. But honestly, I like that, because you're able to,
you learn more about your product and your customer.
You do. It takes a little longer. You learn more about your customer, a bit better fit. And then, you have a lot more control of what you do, where you're going.
Yeah, and you're not in a rush to scale, right? So the investors, the monthly updates or quarterly updates, wondering where the heck the company is. Focus on getting that product market fit, ensuring that your customers love your product, and then you go find more people like that, and it's a lot easier to sell into after.
Yeah, totally. And we've grown, and with the help of Donnie, my marketing head of marketing, it's been great, because we've actually been able to grow quite consistently now, and we now have a consistent pipeline, and it's doing quite well. And it's really interesting to see that it's not exponential growth, but it is this nice linear growth that is now continuing to increase over time, and that's worked really well to also help to grow the company slowly and not to explode it. I've seen people be like, I got to hire 20, 50 people tomorrow, and then a year later they're not even in business because they couldn't manage that, just crumble from the inside.
Or more popular back in the day, not today anymore, but I saw entrepreneurs that raised some seed funding and they would go get a nice office space. Hopefully a lot of entrepreneurs aren't doing that now, but that was a huge waste of money back in the day. Now it's hiring too many employees or spending a bunch of money on ads that don't convert for anything.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that too as well. And we haven't really done any paid advertising other than some of the a little bit of testing we did back in the day. So we've been really sort of really careful where we spend our money, and that really has helped to put it in the right place. Make sure we're really, really getting the return on our investment, rather than just saying, hey, let's just try this and blow a whole bunch of money. And you're like, wow, that really didn't work. And now we don't have anything else. So now we got to raise again. So
yeah, it's so much easier when you know your customers love it, and you could just go knock on some doors and find some more right away. Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? So initially it's a lot of brick by brick building. Cut one customer at a time, and I've always seen at one point there's this point where it just explodes all of a sudden, where people are recommending your product through word of mouth. Your customers, really are engaged with the product. They continue to stick around and use it, adding to your revenue there. But then, most importantly, the word of mouth comes in, right? They start telling their peers and other people like them about your product, and that's where things really start to explode overnight. But it never happens unless you have a very firm and a strong foundation for the company and the product for which it was built on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're seeing today. Actually, it's exactly that happening, and it's been great. But it's also perseverance, right? I've done this company since 2015. And in 2017, I put it down for 2 years. 2017, 2019. So there's a large periods of time where I didn't even touch it. Since 2019, I've really sort of worked at it again, pretty dedicated, and now it's been only the last year or two that's really sort of started to take off a bunch, and especially the last year, it's been doing quite well. So
that's a great story. Yeah, not overnight success always.
Not at all. Not by. It's interesting because on that point, I have a lot of founders around me who have exited and they're retired and they don't do anything anymore. And look at them as my friends, and I'm like, wow, I'm still in the trenches, getting hard, but this is the way it is. So either you stick with it or you just say find something different. But the key is perseverance for sure.
I don't know if I ever could. I'm kind of an artist type, so I always, like to keep building the next thing after you solve a problem, you want to focus on the next problem after that. So one at a time.
Right.
Well, that's great. I guess, have you always been an entrepreneur? Did you work for another company, or how'd you
Yeah.
get started again?
I've always been sort of an entrepreneur since
Nice.
high school, and I've only actually had really one job,
Mhm.
and that was back
Being an
in
entrepreneur. Oh,
2002.
gosh.
So
What was
too much
that?
fun.
Subway?
Yeah, so that
We all
shows you.
had those jobs back in the day.
That was like a university job, and then I just started doing my own stuff in 2004 as a consultant doing business intelligence, and I did that for many years, and then started in 2012. Decided to build a product because I'm an engineer and I wanted to build something, and a couple of different ideas that did not do anything, did not go anywhere, and then finally settled on OrangeDox, and then the rest is history.
That's kind of on the same timeline. I kind of started the entrepreneurship motion around 2004-ish, around there too. So, yeah, I did like a restaurant job way back in the day in high school and all that. But it was a good experience, like interacting with people and all that. But got bored of that job pretty quickly because it's fairly repetitive and easy to figure out. So, I got into technology, probably not unlike yourself, because the problem solving aspects of it. Every
Right.
day is a new challenge, and that kind of keeps you on your toes, which is always fun.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's what I love about it, is building a product. And one of the things that we're talking about, the whole idea of products, is that one thing that was born from OrangeDox was a completely different product, which is to do with more creator side, which is just Lightroom presets for photography. And we branched that product out into a product called The Color, which within about a year had about 200,000 users on it. So this is great to have another product that you can play with, and revenue wise, it doesn't do as good as OrangeDocs because it's it's a consumer product, but it's really fun to build something that has millions of views, and it gets hundreds of thousands of people to use it, which is great.
Yeah, I've been on the side of B2C, and I've also been on B2B. So I feel like B2C, like product development and marketing for that matter, there's a lot of skills you can learn that you could bring over to B2B and vice versa. A lot of people in B2B always forget that, at the end of the day, we're selling to people, right? And people love amazing experiences. And I feel like consumer marketers and product designers have done a really good job tapping into the psychology of the users and their behaviors. And, that's why a lot of B2B products are really bland, if I don't mind saying that. But the ones that figure out that UX and how to make a really highly engaging product that anticipates those perceptions and behaviors of their audience, connects really well with those customers. And those kind of products like really spark a lot of interest, in my opinion. But there's definitely some overlaps you can learn from the B2C and B2B market. Have you found kind of a similar approach before?
Yeah, actually, it was interesting because we I actually brought in my head of marketing there specifically with the B2C product, the Color product, and we pushed that quite hard. We tried a bunch of things, and we actually then took that in. When it didn't work that well, I mean, we grew to a certain size. I think we just captured most of the market. Funny enough, it is unfortunate you just can't make good money on it. So we moved over back to putting that energy into Color, or starting into OrangeDox, and there was a lot of things that we used from that. The experience we had from how we were doing outreach, what kind of marketing we're doing, more guerrilla marketing stuff worked great. Also on the business side, because like exactly you say, it's just you're just selling to somebody else, some other person. And because we have more SMBs, we can actually target just the head of the company typically, or someone who's pretty high up, and they make the decision. And because they're a lower price point, they just choose. We don't have to worry about going through a massive sales cycle either. So
and it's kind of nice with business. You could just focus your effort on getting one customer, and you could build that brick by brick, business by business. It scales quite nicely. Whereas a lot of times you're trying to go for like the mass marketing, mass adoption approach, right? So I've had a social media app in the past. So it was all about just getting users on, getting them engaged, and then you figure out monetization later. not products like that, but a lot of them tend to be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, monetization is the hardest one for sure. We had some options, and unfortunately, advertising just really hasn't done terribly well over the last 8 months, a year. With the economic downturn. So you really sort of suffer through whatever AdSense these providers can give you. And what nice thing about doing your own paid product is that it's your own revenue. It's paid directly to you, and it's monthly, so which is great.
Certainly. So B2C or B2B products, which ones are more fun for you to work on?
B2B products keep the lights on in my house.
Yep.
And B2C products are fun to work on
Yep.
in my spare time.
Yeah. I've had some good memories from some B2C products that, had fairly good success in terms of like traction from a usage standpoint, but the monetization is a whole different matter. Some I've monetized, some not so much, but they always make for really fun memories, especially when you launch a company with friends, which I had a company with some friends in the past, kind of barely knew each other. We actually became friends from that entire project. The project failed, but we learned so much from it. And,
Right.
we all had a great time working on it together. We're like, hey, we're kind of the same guys. Why don't we just, keep in touch here? And the friendships kind of grew from there. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great being in this whole startup land. I mean, like I was meeting a lot of people back in the day, and still keep in touch with a lot of different people. And it's interesting to see that their careers have taken different paths, and some of them have done extremely well. And it's nice to see that and see that set of success. And you also keeps you able to say, hey, it's just keep going. If everyone around you completely fails and moved on to something back to their old jobs or something, you'd be like, oh, maybe I should be doing the same thing too. But when you see people be successful, you're like, wow, I think I can do that as well. So
yeah, I love seeing people crush it that I know. I mean, I've seen people, go from nothing and kind of struggle, and then you see them hit, one night overnight, and a lot of people are just, everybody's trying to be their friend or whatever. And you're like, I've known that person for 15 years working on this stuff. I knew they were going to go somewhere. And, a lot of people don't want to know until the person like blows up, and they think it's an overnight thing, but it's not. I've seen these people grow and, develop and learn for 10, 15 years. And then they have that overnight success. And, it's, everybody wonders how it happens, right? It's all those, all those hours and relationships you build over the years that, when luck is when it's opportunity meets preparation. Right. And so everybody's like, that guy's lucky. No, he's been preparing for years, and the right opportunity came along and it connected this time. So that's key. Do you have any books you would recommend for entrepreneurs to learn some of these stuff?
I saw that question. I was like, oh, wow, I don't read any entrepreneur books anymore.
Yeah, it's the same stuff eventually.
Honestly, and that's actually a good point you bring up, is that, as an entrepreneur, I think when I started, it was like, let's read a bunch of books, figure stuff out. And then you realize later on, maybe I should just grow my company and focus my effort on that. I don't do a lot of events like this. I don't read a lot of those books. I just literally spend my time to put it into my customers and making sure that they're taken care of and growing the company. However, that being said, one of the books that does stand out, I read Hatching Twitter. I thought it was just hilarious. It was a great book. And one of the reasons why is that, as you go through the trenches of startup land, you end up, coming out with some scars and some crazy stories, and you read another book. It's great to see some of the people have the exact same issues. It's not just you having these weird things happen to you. It's other, everyone has it as well.
Yeah, it's nothing you take personally, you know what I mean? It's just an opportunity to learn, and, every step by step. One thing, unfortunately, a lot of founders take it personally, and it's, it can be hard being a founder or an entrepreneur, because sometimes, you get so involved with your product and your business. It's an extension of your life, really. And, to be able to separate that and just see it as a tool for what it is, helps you kind of understand and cope with all the ups and downs of the exciting world of entrepreneurialism.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it, right? I mean, it's to have fun on the way, right? And if you're not having fun anymore, I think it's a good time to reevaluate what you're doing.
Definitely, 100%. So what's next for OrangeDox, and why should, always like to say, like, why should people choose your product over, say, another one out there? And I love giving you guys a spotlight to talk about your unique selling proposition, and tell people, of course, to go check it out in the B2B SaaS marketplace known as Nacho.
Definitely. I think, I think the main reason is what we've mentioned before, is the key for us is that we are highly integrated with Google Workspace, which is where you work. And, you're not going to want to use a tool that is completely separate, that requires you to upload files to different places. We pull them from exactly where you work. We're always synced with Google Workspace. So anytime you change a file, it will automatically sync with it. You don't have to do anything. And that's one of the biggest selling points for us, is making sure that, we're not duplicating effort for our users. And I think that's what's really attracted people to our platform. We verbatim have people tell us we're using it because of that. So I think that's where we're going to end up striving and thriving.
That's great. Well, Chad, I really appreciate you coming in today. And if anybody's interested in checking out OrangeDox, please take a look at the B2B SaaS marketplace. Nacho is the best place to buy SaaS. Chad, once again, I really appreciate you coming on today. It's great, kind of shooting it up with you on the stories here and kind of diving in a little bit deeper into the world of entrepreneurialism. There's always a lot that connects with me there. And I think a lot of our audience loves to hear those backstories and realize that, success is just around the corner if you keep persevering and keep moving towards it.
Definitely. Great.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad.